And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is The Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. I'm in a really good mood. Ticking down the days to the end of the Trump era and the beginning of the Biden years, where I'll tell you, the stimulus plan, the rescue plan, the plan that he's got to move our economy forward, I'm excited about it. Big, chunky, necessary, a good way to prime the pump, keep our economy from collapsing, and get us through this pandemic. And look, as we've been finding out, wow, the incompetence, the level of incompetence of this administration, just incredible. And look, we're going to hear more of these stories in the coming months. You had Larry Kudlow, who was, one of, with the brown stuff all over his, or orange stuff all over his nose, because it was so far up Trump's behind, now coming out and saying, well, I wasn't really all that happy. Yeah. And this weird Pentagon briefing today that just made me go, how crazy is it when you've got the guy who's the acting Secretary of Defense, this guy Christopher Miller, who came out and gave just the most bizarre, kind of incoherent press conference. He was asked a question about procurement, something with the F-35, and he just goes into this rambling. I can't wait to leave this job. I mean, I was, as I'm reading this, I'm going, why didn't you just go, what, screw it, I'm going home. I quit right now. I'm not giving you 2 weeks. I'm giving you now. I'm out the door. And for me, while that's troubling, and he actually went into saying as an answer, blah, 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 whatever the hell that means. The most interesting thing came when the question was asked, what's the most important thing you've learned about Russian activity beneath the threshold of armed conflict? Which I thought was an interesting question. Outside of worrying about their military capabilities of blowing us up and the nuclear stuff and the tanks rolling around and the guns and all that, what is it that you've learned? And his response was Russian? Question mark. I think they're extremely, I have professional respect for how they do things. I think they're playing a really bad hand of card, very, very well. Declining population, single source of economic revenue through natural resources. I kind of, like professionally, I'm like, wow, they're doing pretty well. And they're using a lot of irregular warfare concepts, information, and all this stuff in a way that, like, good on them. This is the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America saying, good on them for screwing with us. Good on them for hacking into our stuff. Good on them for all of the shenanigans that they've done with our elections. Good on them. Good on them for ripping the country apart at its soul. Good on them. Really? The Defense Secretary of the U.S., who can't wait to get out of his job. Is it just me? Is there something here that maybe I'm missing? And there are still people defending this administration and how incompetent they are. Remember, these are going to be the best people. Only the best people. Which I guess would explain why Trump's approval rating has dipped to the lowest point ever. He is now, according to the Pew Research Center poll, at a whopping 29%. That is like one of those really big wow moments. Because I think people are finally waking up, and I'm hoping people are waking up to just how incompetent this administration has been from top to bottom. And this is why you don't have a carnival barker as your president. This is why you don't have someone who it's all about him leading the country. I have, like I said, I'm in a good mood. I have some hope. I have hope that, maybe we're going to wake up on January 20th and maybe we're going to move in something of a better direction. Now, Donald Trump is going to leave on the 20th, sooner than most presidents. Evidently in the morning, he plans on boarding, I guess, Marine One, or the helicopter. They're going to take him out to Andrews Air Force Base, where Air Force One will, I guess, take him wherever he wants to go and drop him off, maybe with a parachute, or maybe not. There is that. But this is the first time since Andrew Johnson in 1869. It's the first time a president hasn't gone to an inauguration of their successor since 1869. And oddly enough, a little quick trivia, another president that was impeached. So some interesting parallels. Although Johnson just was impeached once, Trump has got everybody beat now twice. But he also plans to head to the Air Force Base, where I guess he's planning this super parade kind of thing. He's planning to have like a military send-off with lots of pomp and circumstance and red carpets and cannons, boom, and planes, zoom, all kinds of stuff. Like he's some kind of hero being sent off instead of, well, a guy with a 29% approval rating who has left the country in tatters because of his incompetence and his inability to understand basic facts and ideas, and using Russian disinformation, has ripped the country to shreds. But hey, we're going to give him a military send-off, and I guess we're going to bring all his supporters too, which should be big fun, because again, it's all about Donald Trump. All I can say is, wow. Wow. And this is just one of those moments where you go, now, I guess Mike Pence is going to show up to the inauguration, since I guess he's been kind of, acting president or doormat. I don't know. And I guess yesterday was the first time that Kamala Harris and the vice president have spoken, which, again, really historically odd. Considering there's supposed to be a transition. So look, the economy's in major trouble. The pandemic is raging like it's never raged before. We've got millions of people without health care, millions of people losing jobs, homelessness crisis that's coming. We've got all of this stuff just compounding and piling, and we've got a petulant child who wants a big parade for himself. Holy bleep. And then there's the letter. And I got to thinking about this today. Throughout history, one of the traditions has been that the outgoing president leaves a letter for the incoming president. Something nice, something, hey, good luck. Hey, this is going to be the experience of a lifetime. Hey, I wish you well. Hey, you ran a good campaign. Hey, the bathroom's down the hall to the right. Whatever words that they want to leave the next administration. And they're usually, good things, well wishes, the hope to bring unity back to the country. My mind is going in all of these weird places of, one, will Trump leave him a letter or a giant pile of something in the desk drawer? I don't know. And what would that letter say? I mean, would it be "I won" with an exclamation point? Or actually 3 exclamation points, since he likes that emphasis, all in capital letters in the form of a tweet? He can't tweet anymore. I mean, is this what we've got? And would that become part of the historical record, which I so hope it is? He draws a little bird on the piece of paper, like the little Twitter guy. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, because it would be the exclamation point on this administration. It is horrible. And I haven't even gotten into how bad things are going to get yet with the virus that evidently we don't seem to care about, because I guess there was a stockpile, then there wasn't, we thought there was, but there's not. And you've got, these governors who, the governor of Colorado who claims he was shocked that there wasn't anything, shocked that this administration lied to the governors. Really? Who in the if you're shocked by this administration lying after 4 years of being repetitively lied to at every single time, this guy would lie when the truth would be better. If you're shocked by this, quit your job, leave now. Shut down whatever it is you're doing and just leave. But the governor of Colorado says he was shocked that they're not going to get what they thought they were going to be able to get. And now they're still hoping to vaccinate 70% of the folks who are 70 and older by the end of February. But the doses aren't there. Now, again, this is going to hamper the Biden administration coming in because they've got a plan to get, 100 million doses out in the first 100 days. Kind of hard to do when you don't have a stockpile. Kind of hard to do when you don't have, a reserve already. Now I know, but Rick, they've done like 5 million. It's the 15th. This was supposed to be rolled out at the end of last year. Why aren't we mass mobilizing? Why aren't we mass mobilizing to get needles into people's arms so we can get more people vaccinated? Why aren't we doing that? And here's the thing: this is why I'm so excited about January 20th. Because I believe Biden and the people that he's going to bring in are going to hit the ground running because they don't have a choice. There's no honeymoon here. Unfortunately, they all know where the bathroom is already, so that's an obstacle they're not going to have to figure out. And they get to work day one because there's been no transition. There'll be no help from the Trump administration. And to be honest, and this is one of those things where, maybe it's best that there wasn't any coordination during the transition because of just how badly this administration has boogered everything up. I don't know that I would want their ideas or their thoughts or their incompetence to somehow infect the incoming administration. So maybe it's good that there is no coordination whatsoever going on. I mean, when just yesterday is the first time the vice president and the incoming vice president have spoken. That's remarkable. And the fact that the presidents haven't spoken, even more remarkable. But again, when you have someone throwing a temper tantrum, when it's I won by a landslide. And I'm still waiting for the index card with maybe that's what Ivanka did. Had some index cards with the little Tweety bird on the corner, so he could pretend like he's tweeting. And I don't know, man. But we're just in this moment, and you go, but Rick, how can you be in a good mood when all of this horrible is coming around us? I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I see noon on Wednesday, the 20th. I see Donald Trump leaving. And even if we have to throw him a little party and people have to pretend like they're applauding for him just to get him to go. Even if it is, a John Adams-esque type event where it's got to be lots of military pomp and circumstances to make him feel good about himself and boost his ego, I'm kind of okay with it. No, I'm really not, to be honest. I'm not. We've spent enough propping this guy's ego up, to be honest. And he's done enough to destroy this country. I mean, you look at the rhetoric that he's put out over the last 4 years and how divided we are. Again, while Biden's going to take over a country that is just, in major turmoil, economically, healthcare wise, with the virus and people losing their healthcare. Our infrastructure is 4 years older with no major investments other than a couple of feet of crappy wall that I saw a couple of teenage girls scale in 18 seconds. I mean, if you see the video, they went down to the border and they literally can climb up the wall, touch the top of the wall, come down in 18 seconds. Yeah, that was worth, what, 1 million miles a foot or whatever it cost, $1 million a foot. But this is what Biden's going to have to pick up and move us forward. And I think, the first swing out of the box, this rescue plan, get money into people's pockets to help them pay their bills, get money into the hands of state and local governments to keep them from collapsing, because we're on the brink of all of that. Temporarily extending the earned income tax credit so low wage workers get a boost. The child credit so that families can weather this storm of having to educate the kids at home while trying to work, and maybe somebody have to stay home. I do have some really high hopes. And I understand there's an infrastructure bill coming in February, which will be fantastic. We desperately need it. And the thing that this shows me, and the thing I'm most grateful for at this moment, is that this isn't going to be a second Obama term. I think Biden has got it in his head, and he saw what happened during the Obama years, that he's going to have to go full tilt forward and think big. And then as he has to scale back, he'll do that, but only if he has to. And this is what I love about this idea. You go in there big, and if you have to negotiate and scale back, you're not killing yourself. What Democrats usually do is they go in with what they'll accept and end up scaling back to something unacceptable, which doesn't make anybody better off except for the millionaires and billionaires who are cashing in. So for me, I got hope after Wednesday. That's if we get through this weekend and the violence that's supposed to be planned in all 50 states at state capitals across the country. Because the nitwits and the nimrods with their little toys are supposed to be showing up at our capitals to cause trouble. And it's the FBI's now going, oh, well, we should probably take this seriously. Well, maybe you should have thought that when all those exercises were happening across the country that nobody seemed to get all that upset about, except people like me going, really? You're going to let those nitwits break into the Capitol in Michigan and be armed face to face with legislators? Is this a good idea? Because it was a training exercise. It was, let's see how they react. Let's see how far we can go before they do anything. Well, here's the thing. They've killed a police officer. They've killed other people. They've damaged an incredible amount of property. What do you think they're going to do next? So I'm hoping I'm wrong. But I'm expecting bloodshed this weekend. I'd love to hear your thoughts, though. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, Scott Dworkin's going to be here to share some thoughts.
American, then workers standing up, and the union gives a voice to win. On the Rick Smith Show.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1946. That was the day the United Electrical Workers joined the national post-war strike wave. 200,000 UE members walked off the job at General Electric, Westinghouse, and General Motors Electrical Division. Across the country, reduction of hours and phony job reclassifications led to a 30% wage cut, while years of wartime grievances piled up. All this led to the workers demanding a $2 a day pay raise. Many of these workers were young women on strike for the first time. They had spent much of the war fighting piecework and gender-based divisions of labor. Reports from the picket lines showed overwhelming support among the strikers and from the general public. Older male co-workers who built the UE joined young women strikers on the line. At the GE Mazda Lamp Works in Youngstown, Ohio, steelworkers joined women strikers to bolster the picket lines. In Lynn, Massachusetts, signs of women picketers read, "We want to live, not just exist," and "Let the pipes freeze. They don't care if we freeze," in response to maintenance crews being allowed to pass. In Bloomfield, New Jersey, 6 restaurants turned their establishments over to the strikers. GE President Charles Wilson complained bitterly of the 12,000 or so picketers that blocked the gates of the GE Schenectady plant. Strikers across the country faced violent confrontations and beatings as police on horseback waded through the crowds. Philadelphia strikers retaliated by pouring marbles onto the streets. Workers at GE and Westinghouse would eventually settle for 18 cents an hour, less than what they had hoped for, but more than either company had been willing to give. Management would remain in shock for years at the level of solidarity among the strikers and the community.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So as I said, one of my concerns is this weekend we're going to see violence in state capitals all across the country. They've promised it, they've planned for it, and even in the fact that we've seen all of these arrests, even the fact that we're seeing all of this muscular talk from the FBI, you still have these nitwits out there. And in fact, today you had evidently the My Pillow guy showing up. Talking to Trump about martial law. Now, it was funny on Twitter. They spelled martial, the wrong way, which I thought was hysterical and telling that our education system needs to be, worked on. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the big powwow with the My Pillow guy, and also some thoughts on the weekend. I've asked our good friend Scott Dworkin to come talk with us. Scott is the co-founder of the Democratic Coalition, also host of the fabulous Dworkin Report. Scott, thanks for taking time for us.
Tell me that you can hear me, Rick.
Finally, I can hear you.
That's wonderful. It's good to see you on this night, and I agree with you. There is people looked at today. I've done a few interviews and. You were like, you seem really optimistic, but I can see that tunnel. There may be some stuff that they do this weekend, but I can see that tunnel. I've seen it for a while, but a whole day or so. But it's nice to see. It's nice to see because it's bigger than we thought.
No, absolutely. And it's one of those things where you go. It's been so long. I mean, it's been 4 long years of misery that we've been talking about. Getting to this day, because I remember on Inauguration Day we were saying this is going to be terrible. We're going to see all of this calamity, economic collapse. Nobody imagined the virus, but most of this stuff we saw real trouble. And it looks like Scott got disconnected again. But it's one of those things that when you look at the fact that over this span, we've had all of this chaos and all of this turmoil. It's only now at the end, Scott, that you're seeing his approval numbers taking a major dive, that you're seeing his ability to grab crowds get smaller, and again this the end of this term can't come fast enough for me, and we're working to get Scott back on the line since evidently the phone dropped again. But it's one of these things where I have such optimism for Biden coming in. Like I said at the beginning, this rescue plan, this idea that we're going to put some major investment into into our economy. We're going to do some things to get the vaccines into people's arms. We're going to do all of these things that need to be done. To me, is kind of exciting, and I got to tell you, I'm hoping it works. It doesn't look like we're getting Scott. I mean, she's trying. This is what happens when you do live anything, and everything takes a kind of a dive.
Sorry about that, Rick.
I appreciate you sticking with us, Scott.
Yeah, no, that's my fault. I mean, we always have these technological problems. Ever since I became my own producer of sorts, from home, we always have audio problems. So that is my bad. Sorry to your listeners about that.
So let me get to Wednesday. I mean, as I've said, I'm really hopeful that Biden and his team take the ball and start running and move us in a really positive direction.
Yeah, and I think that people have to keep in mind that it's not just President-elect Biden. You have his entire cabinet of rational, smart human beings that care about other human beings, and the bar is so low. And after Trump has done all of this devastation, all he's doing is making the bar even lower. And so when people see action, and they see today he announced that the Defense Production Act will be used to develop the vaccine rollout and make sure that we have enough to actually put in people's arms. On top of that, testing development so that we can get instant testing for our houses so that we can go places. We can go to a football stadium if they test us on the way in, and we still wear masks and do all that, but at the same time, we can still be safe enough that there's not an outbreak. But keep in mind, it would take a few dozen cases. That's it, for an Obama administration to have shut down an entire state with a governor. And so when you see, millions of cases, I mean, this is devastating, and the effects of this are going to be long lasting. So you're right. I think President-elect Biden is going to come in, but I think I just want to make clear that unity does not mean we're uniting with Nazis and terrorists. We refuse to do that.
Right.
That's not what we're saying. We're saying that we have a route, and we know which way to take it. And if you've taken a different route that hasn't worked, which was Trump's route, you're welcome to join us on this journey. And we would love for you to join us. It does not mean we're going to acquiesce and do anything that they demand or come to the middle, because we're not going to negotiate with our morals and humanity anymore. That's out the window.
No, absolutely. And we've got to hold people accountable. Absolutely. And I see Cori Bush today, I think it was today, introduced what is her first resolution on the House floor, calling for the expulsion of all Republican members of Congress who attempted to overthrow the results of the 2020 election. And also to incite these white supremacists to attempt a coup. I think this is a step in the right direction. We need to hold these people in Congress who evidently were giving tours the day before. We need to hold these people accountable first.
Yeah, and Rep. Cori Bush is one of my favorites, because that's how you should be. You should be outspoken for your district. You can't be like, I think a lot of the people, they tried to pander to this theory of, oh, well, we're afraid of Trump. They try to pull that card of, I don't want to vote for impeachment because my family be threatened. Then you need to resign and get out of Congress. You have no place there. You're a coward, and you don't deserve to be there, because you need to speak out like Cori Bush. You need to speak out like AOC. You need to, like that, Katie Porter. These are the people, essentially women that I just named, people that are making sense. And rational human beings that actually want to stand up for their people and are not beholden to money. And I think, Republicans don't know what to do with that. And so you've seen the biggest help, the biggest assistance that we've had so far is the removal of Trump from Twitter. And that comes on three fronts. One of the ways is obviously he's removed from Twitter, which is great. So that's a big problem. It's a distraction for us. And the second thing is, it also allows us to correspond with other members of Congress that we may not have focused on before, because they no longer have their clown to distract from everybody. And the third thing that it does is it really makes it possible so that we can take action that has nothing to do with them. And we can do things of importance, and we can do things that are positive, and we don't have to focus on things like trending hashtags about how he should be impeached, or things that could get to him so that he can be distracted from that, so he's not setting off a nuclear missile somewhere. These are the things that we've had to deal with. And I think what Republicans are not used to is the reality of the moment of us all responding to them, confronting them in a peaceful sort of manner, and also making sure, we do not stand for this, and we cannot let off the gas. We cannot accept any of this. Anyone involved with any part of this challenging the electoral results, yeah, they made a gamble, and they lost big time. People are dead. There's a police officer dead. That family will never see him again. He was beaten with a fire extinguisher in the face. And they're telling, and that impeachment vote forever is a vote against his family. He isn't even buried yet. Oh no, he just was. But the point being, it really hurts to see these liars and frauds in government. We have to get them out.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Now, some of the concern that I know some folks, some friends of mine are having is that these people are well organized, they're well financed, and they're not
Sure.
going anywhere. There was no embarrassment of what happened on the 6th. Most of them are proud of what they accomplished, and that is getting the Confederate flag further into Washington D.C. than General Lee ever did. So these people are proud of their accomplishments, and they're not going away. So what do you see over the next 4 years? Because I only see them organizing more and being a much bigger distraction. What are you seeing?
I see them folding and joining us. I really don't. Trump supporters and terrorists and things like that are diehards. I mean, there's a small portion of the population, like 3 or 4%, that will never change. They're always going to doubt us. They're always going to attack us. They're always going to hate us. But there's going to be a vast majority. There's going to be this patriotic surge in our country about America and what it means to be an American, and why people actually want people in Congress. We are just getting started after 5 years of this. We are hardened. We are weathered. We have been through the storm, and we made it through the mud, okay? And so we can make it through anything. You think McConnell, you think these people are going to be standing against the resistance? Yeah, right. It's not going to happen. It's impossible for them to actually confront this because they're outnumbered. A vast majority of America is a member of the resistance, a vast majority.
Yeah.
And all it takes is just people that are patriots that want to stand up for our country in just the most basic terms,
Now, what's interesting to me is, if you look at the latest polling that's come out, especially this Pew poll that's just out today.
Oh, yeah.
His approval rating is down to an all-time low of 29%. So that's telling me, because it was always believed that he could never fall below 35-40%. Because
Right.
that was the hardcore base. So to your point that, some of those people who voted for Trump are going to join with the rest of sanity, holds water as we're seeing his approval rating tank.
Sure, and we have to keep on the guard. I mean, I remember Sacha Baron Cohen reached out to me. He's like, hey, let's do another push for ban Trump, save democracy. And I was like, man, I'm so tired. I can't. I don't know if we can do that on top of it. And so he pushed me. He pushed some other people to do it, and that was the night before he got banned. That final push. It wasn't just that. There's millions of people who have pushed for him to get off. I think the key here is the lies will be covered up by, as in we'll be able to rid of the lies with the truth, because the truth will speak louder. When you see Vice President Biden. When you see President-elect Biden go out there and talk today about how he's going to be honest with you and looks you in the eye and says it's going to get worse before it gets better. I always told you I'd be straight with you. And you know what? As terrible as that is to hear, it's also comforting. And I don't think that people, maybe initially there will be an initial kind of shock to Trump people, like there was to us when Trump was elected, or whatever you call it, and maybe there's that, but it'll wear off really quick because reality's sinking in. This is a pandemic. What are you doing? God knows how many people got sick at that riot, but that probably is going to kill tens of thousands of people in the end. And so we have to look at this, and we have to confront reality. And anyone that is not with us in regards to the basic sense of wearing a mask should get no airtime, no attention. They should be expelled from Congress. They are a traitor because they're allowing the virus to spread. We can't accept that. We have to confront everybody in a peaceful manner. We have to confront everybody and not let anything go. We can never let this happen again. And the only ways we can do that is by making sure that justice prevails, that truth prevails, and with voices, like yours and mine and everybody else who's listening, it's gonna get through. If you look at the trend, we're talking about 2017, getting them to open the Russia probe with Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General, with Nunes in. You know what I mean? Those two people had to recuse themselves, and they appointed Mueller. They appointed Robert Mueller. That's how bad it was. So we're going to find the truth out about that. The levels of corruption and lies that will be exposed from the Trump administration and the crimes that they committed while in office, from the ongoing probes that are going on right now in Congress, the dozens and dozens of investigations that are active into coronavirus, corruption, and also his entire White House. Everything is going to be prosecuted. Nothing is going to be off the table. We forget nothing, and we have to flush this out. This is draining the swamp down. He's exposed who the actual criminals are just by leaving them out to dry. And so I guess I would have been like Giuliani. I would have been like Don Jr. I'd hate myself, but like that, those are the people that are kind of turning our world upside down for 5 years, and we're done. We're done. And we have to stop and just, it's a full stop, assess the situation, and then we just keep on trudging forward. But we're no longer going to be in the mud eventually. There is going to be that light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll be there soon enough. It's just going to take some more hard work. And, this is the beginning. It's not the end. And I think that's the key that everybody needs to realize. But it's not like a false kind of hope beginning. It's not we just won the House, but we don't have the Senate. We don't have the White House. It's we have everything. So now's our time to lead. So we have a mandate, and we intend to use it.
No, and it's getting to Wednesday. That's the hard part at this point, because we still have to get past this weekend. And
I agree.
I'm expecting some horrible things, but we're going to get through this. We're going to get past this virus. We're going to rebuild our economy, and we're going to do some good things. And because my fear was we were going to end up seeing another, like we saw during the beginning of the Obama term, where it was half measures, and they didn't, in my view, didn't go far enough. When he came out with this rescue package, a $1.9 trillion rescue package, this is going big in my view.
Yeah, and this is what it takes. And you know what, a positive, and this is the rubber band thing that I was talking about for years on your show now, is that because Trump's terrible negotiating style, because of his all or nothing, that is how Democrats are now going to act with it. Because we don't have room to negotiate with humanity. We aren't going to negotiate with American lives. Like, we want to save as many as possible, and if it takes flushing all the money out of the government, we got to do what we got to do. We have to save lives at this point. And the more money that goes to the American people, the more lives it's going to save. And the more, just think about the anxiety level of people in this country. Like, the blood pressure in this country of everybody, the average, is going to go down immediately the second he's sworn in. There is nothing that will change that. I can say, as a person who stood next to President Obama on Inauguration Night after his first dance, that it will be the most protected place on the planet, and it's impossible for anything to actually incur on that day.
Well, as I said, for all those people who want bad things to happen to Joe Biden, remember, if something does happen to him, you've got President Kamala Harris.
Yeah, so it's exactly.
Consider yourself warned.
Right, and so but again, this is going to be the most protected man on the planet. This is not going to be, Secret Service is different than Capitol Police. And if you look at the videos, Capitol Police was outnumbered, and you can see that 90% of them deserve medals. Like, they saved lives. Also, D.C. Metro Police, Maryland, D.C., and Virginia National Guards. I mean, there were people who went in there who weren't supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, they went in there, and they were either ordered not to or not told that they could go, and they went ahead because they saw what was happening. And we're talking about, hundreds of police officers standing in the doorway from thousands of people trying to push their way in, getting sprayed with bear mace. I mean, like, every single person that was involved with this needs to be arrested. And don't forget, there's other things that involve treason that exist that will come out. When we read that Mueller report, I can just tell you that the disgust of people who defended him and had another big lie of saying he didn't coordinate or conspire or collude with Russia or any other country, that's another big lie. And as we unpack these, you'll see people start to apologize, as they are now, and some of them they can tell their apologies to their families, and they can leave public life forever because they're not welcome. Just like the Nazis were not welcome.
Yeah.
The swastika of our generation is that red hat.
No, you're absolutely right, and I want people held accountable. Perp walked into jail and sent there for a long time. Scott, I appreciate the time and the thoughts. As always, good stuff, my friend.
Wear a mask, everybody. Thank you, and stay safe.
There you go. Our good friend Scott Dworkin, co-founder of the Democratic Coalition, also host of the Dworkin Report. Quick break. Right back. Stick around.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1941. That was the day that black labor leader A. Philip Randolph issued a call for a march on Washington. He proposed the march to bring attention to the employment discrimination faced by African American workers. World War II was being waged across the globe. U.S. industries were booming. Tanks, planes, weapons, and munitions rolled off production lines. From 1941 to 1945, the United States would export more than $32 billion in goods as part of its Lend-Lease program to Allied forces. It was also becoming more and more likely that the U.S. itself would enter the fighting soon. Thousands and thousands of workers found employment as demand for labor soared. The young aircraft industry saw a staggering growth of more than 13,000% during the war. But many black workers found themselves shut out of many segments of this growing economy. The Lockheed Aircraft Corporation, to take one example, had 0 black workers on their assembly lines in 1941. A. Philip Randolph had risen to national prominence with his successful organizing of the Black Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters Union. Now he turned his attention to war industry discrimination. He declared, "Negro America must bring its power and pressure to bear upon the agencies and representatives of the federal government to exact their rights in national defense employment and the armed forces of this country." He continued, "I suggest that 10,000 Negroes march on Washington, D.C. with the slogan, 'We loyal Negro Americans demand the right to work and fight for our country.'" His declaration helped to launch a movement. His call for 10,000 marchers grew to a call for 100,000. The threatened march successfully pressured President Roosevelt to issue an executive order to desegregate war production. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
I don't know how I missed this, but evidently the story today out of Iowa City, Iowa, is a white military veteran. A 25-year-old guy was charged with attempted murder in the December 6th shooting in Des Moines of a 15-year-old black girl. Evidently, she was in a car carrying 4 black teenagers. There was a confrontation at a rally, a Trump rally, and this guy evidently shot into the car. I didn't hear it. Did you? I must have missed where the white guy shot, because we're told by my white friends that way. Well, we hear anytime that happens. I must have missed it. I missed the news media of this, of how law-abiding these gun owners are, because he's a good guy with a gun. We are certainly in troubled times, and here to share some thoughts on just how troubled they are and maybe what we're planning to see in his state of Ohio and mine here in Pennsylvania. I've asked our good friend Brett Pransky to come talk with us. Brett is the super professor, also ran for state house there in the state of Ohio. Brett, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So did you see this story? Because I missed it.
I think I caught it originally when it first happened. I caught a little bit about it. But you didn't really see a whole lot of coverage after that.
No, it's amazing how that happens.
Yeah, it seems to go that way, and it's both surprising and not surprising at the same time.
Now, the big story, obviously, today for the gun folks, the NRA files Chapter 11 bankruptcy because they're in major debt because basically they stole from themselves. to enrich themselves, and the rest of us are going to pick up the tab.
Well, I think that's how it goes with a lot of these organizations. I mean, it was one big giant Ponzi scheme. They took people's money, paid their own people exorbitant salaries, and got the very best of everything. And then, as soon as accountability becomes knocking, all of a sudden we don't have any money and we're bankrupt. And this is basically, the NRA admitting guilt and saying that, yeah, we did it, but we're also broke, so we're not going to let you hold us accountable for it.
Yeah, evidently they're leaving New York, where they had incorporated as a nonprofit back in, I think it was 1871. So they've, and this tells you just how off the beaten path this NRA is. Because I remember when I was a kid, the NRA, they taught gun safety. They were actually sane in talking about gun regulation. Now they're, basically the owners and the chief salesmen of the gun industry. So their allegiance is completely changed from actual gun safety and responsibility to, hey, how much can I line my pockets with?
Yeah, there's really been a big change. Again, for example, over my lifetime, I grew up in, pretty heavily into hunting and hunting culture, and, having guns around was a pretty normal thing for me as a kid, and so on. My dad taught me how to shoot and so on. And at that time, the NRA was mostly a gun safety organization. It was a place where you went to learn how to carry guns and use them safely, and so on. And then over the course of the past several decades, it's just morphed into this just pure money making enterprise that seems to only exist to do what the gun lobby wants them to do.
Yeah, I mean, as I've said before on the show, where I grew up in a housing project on the west side of Cleveland. If you saw someone with a gun, run, because somebody's going to die. I now you live in an area where if you see someone with a gun, they're probably going to go hunting, or in my neighborhood, they're probably going over to the free gun range. Complete different cultures, but the NRA is, I think, radicalized gun owners, especially in rural country, in rural communities, to believe that there's this war on them and that everything, the world's against them. And I look at this story of this Larry Randall Brock, who the guy with the zip ties. Who,
Right.
The article that they read about, they wrote about him. This guy had been, somewhat sane at one point, but dove full head hardy into radical right wing, publications and all of this stuff. And it kind of shows again another one of these stories of these guys, becoming much more radical because of the NRA, because of right-wing talk radio and the environment that they've found themselves just submersed in.
Right. Well, these days, I mean, we have so much information at our fingertips all the time. For example, when I walk around with my phone in my pocket, I'm essentially walking around with the Library of Congress in my pocket. That's the kind of access to information that we have, and you would think that this would be a great thing for humanity. In many ways it is, but it also introduces a million ways for bad information to get to you as well. And with all these different options and all these different choices and so few buffers out there between things that are untrue and in us who get to view them, you see some really dangerous things out there. We see sometimes entire neighborhoods, entire cultures, entire small cities that can almost silo themselves off from any really scrutinized media. And so you get these systems, the OANs and the Newsmaxes and the Fox Newses of the world. And the people who listen to these have a tendency to listen only to these and to completely separate themselves from all other forms of media. And so this bad narrative that they get becomes everything to them, becomes the life they live. And you can see the result of that because it crashed into the Capitol last week.
No, because you look at a lot of the statements coming out of the people who have been arrested. They truly believe the country's under siege, and the only way they're going to save it is storm the Capitol and these armed things that I'm expecting this weekend for there to be chaos in our streets and a lot of our capitals. Columbus, where you're near, a big part of that, I think.
I hope I'm wrong, but I think that it's going to be a bad scene here in Columbus. I mean, we've all seen coverage from the Capitol, and we've seen kind of, they've turned the Washington, D.C. into almost an occupied place. security is very high, and there are a lot of deterrents to anybody who's going to want to come there and cause any trouble. But I saw the protections that they have around the Ohio State House. It looks like some kid put it up with an erector set. I mean, if they come here in force, I'm not sure exactly what resources they have to turn them back.
And that's scary stuff. I mean, now remember, these are the people who tell you, these are law-abiding citizens. They're good people with a gun, until they're not. And this is where I keep coming back to. I think the fastest way people lose their Second Amendment rights is to be by doing stuff like I hope we don't see this weekend.
Yeah, and like I said, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope there's no trouble, and I hope that there are no problems, here in Columbus or at any other, state capitol or state house. I hope that that at the end of this weekend, I really hope the right-wing folks are making fun of us for all the things we said might happen. I really do.
No, I'm right there with you.
And I'll give them that touchdown dance. I'll let them do it.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with that whatsoever. I would be happy to be that guy with egg on my face Monday morning. I would be perfectly happy with that. I don't think that's the way it's going to work out, though. But, I truly hope I'm wrong.
No, I'm right there with you. But, I'm looking at the approval numbers. And like I said earlier, the Pew Research poll came out, 29% approval rating, which is telling me that even his supporters are cracking. To me, that's a really good sign, because maybe some of them now, as they're seeing just how bad things really are, and they're seeing some of the statements coming out from people like Larry Kudlow and the acting defense secretary, that maybe they're going, wow, this wasn't great, and that they're shaken awake in this moment.
I think to some extent they are. I'm not sure how much that's going to affect the people who were motivated enough to storm the Capitol. Because I think we're probably in the bottom 25 or 29% of his approval numbers, when that group shows up. I think that number between 29 and where his number normally sat, these were, my neighbors and folks who wouldn't necessarily be motivated to go to Washington, but happened to vote for the guy. So I'm not sure that it has much of an effect on the potential for what could happen this weekend.
Yeah, I'm hoping for sanity. I'm hoping for peace. Now, moving forward, obviously the impeachment happened this week, which I am 110% for. I do believe he has to be tried and removed. I'm curious your thought.
Yeah, I think it was necessary. The moment that they went back in session, as soon as they got done certifying the vote, 5 minutes later, there should have been articles of impeachment, and they should have been, discussing them on the House floor. The fact that they waited and they went through the weekend, it took us until this week to actually vote. I understand there are things that need to be done and things that need to be written and procedures that need to take place. I just don't think anybody should have gone home until those things were done.
No, I said, the day of and the day after, at 4:01 a.m. after they certified the electoral votes, the articles of impeachment should have been rolled out. There should have been a vote that morning, and we should be well on our way to a Senate hearing and conviction.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to get there. And even if it happens after his inauguration, there's still a lot of importance to it. He'll be banned from holding office again, which again is really important, because if he still has that idea that he's going to run again in 2024, we could be in real trouble, from this point forward. Now, that said, sad to say, I believe that right-wing violence is probably a part of our political system for the foreseeable future, even after Trump. It's been introduced. It's a thing that happens. Now, it's always been a part, but it was always it was an occasional thing that used to shock us and so on every now and again. But now it's becoming a fairly normal thing. And if it's one thing that we learn about the American people, is we can accept all kinds of new normals that we didn't think we could accept before. I mean, how many school shootings did we have to see and still no change? We still haven't really changed anything. We're finally getting after the NRA, which is good. But the only reason these events aren't still happening is because we're not in school. So, I mean, we get used to all kinds of things. And I hope that this isn't the next new normal for us. I really hope that that's not the case.
No, I'm with you. But, here's the thing. We've had, as you pointed out, we've had these right-wing militia groups around forever. I think back to Timothy McVeigh blowing up the Murrah building in Oklahoma City, all tied back to the same kind of groups that we're talking about right now, these militia groups that have always been with us. The thing is, it's the internet that's brought them, really connected them together, and then been able to get them to recruit other people who want to be like them. Which is where I think the real danger is, and look, I have hope for the future that maybe some of those folks wake up, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, something I heard a while back, I think it was Van Jones, I heard say it. These groups provide community, identity, and purpose. They give you a group of people that you can call your own. They give you a name that you can call yourself. I'm one of these, and then they give you a direction to row your boat in. And keep in mind, this is the same way that, that the armed forces, work in terms of loyalty. It's the same way street gangs work. And this is no different. The only difference is now with the internet and the means of recruiting that exists for these folks now, it's so much easier for these folks to find each other. 30 years ago, if you were someone who had the potential to wear a white hood, you had a real hard time finding other people who shared your sympathies. You know what I mean? It wasn't the kind of thing you could say out loud in public. You couldn't walk into the public square and say, hey, are there any other Klan folk in here? I'd really like to meet some. You couldn't do that kind of thing. Now you've got these private environments. They're consequence free because you can go on the internet and take on any persona you want. And you can go looking for these things and you can find them. And what's happening is these folks are finding each other and they're banding together. And we're seeing the result of that. And it's absolutely awful.
So how do you deal with that? They're talking about, obviously there have been a bunch of crackdowns on social media. There was just a story today, I think it was the Washington Post, talking about, podcasts are a big area for this kind of recruiting. Is there a way that you're going to be able to crack down on this, or is this something, as you said, a new normal that we're going to have to deal with?
Well, we have to find a way to introduce accountability into the system in a way that just doesn't exist right now. You can tell any lie you want as loud as you want and as dangerous as you want on the internet. And there's really no mechanism for anyone to come along and stop you. Sometimes after an event happens, we ask ourselves, how did this happen? And sometimes there's accountability for that. For example, today, I can't remember the name of the group. I think it was American Thinker came out and basically did a public mea culpa for boldly lying to their audience about the voting machine systems and so on, basically admitted that they did it because they know accountability is coming and they know they're about to be sued and they know the bad things are about to happen to them. So they're coming out and admitting that they just lied. And so that kind of accountability is possible. It can happen. It does happen. I don't think it happens proactively. It has a tendency to happen after the event, the terrible thing that has us all shaking our heads.
Yeah. Then
we go back and attach accountability. But up until the moment of that horrific thing, we're really bad at it.
Yeah. Last question, real quick. Are we hopeful for the future?
Oh, I'm always hopeful. Dr. Cornel West said he always had what he called a blues inflected hope, and that's kind of how I am. I'm not necessarily optimistic, but I am full of hope.
There we go. Good stuff. Brett, I appreciate the time as always, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, actor, comedian Tom Arnold is going to be here to share some thoughts on the election, on the impeachment, on all of that.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.
Hello, I'm David Philman, Executive Director of AFSCME Council 13, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. A union of over 1.4 million strong and growing, AFSCME is gaining improvements in the workplace all across America. And right here in the Commonwealth, more than 95,000 AFSCME members make Pennsylvania happen. Highways, libraries, hospitals, parks, offices, prisons, classrooms, museums, courtrooms. You'll find AFSCME members at work in all these places and many more.
I make Pennsylvania happen every day.
I make Pennsylvania happen every day.
Today's AFSCME members take on public service jobs as diverse as they are, not for the recognition, but for a better Pennsylvania. For more information, please visit our website at AFSCME13.org. Labor is changing. So is your labor union. We are AFSCME.
What's wrong with people? Has the savagery and raw animal hatred within the human species finally come out of the darkness to devour our society? Fanatics in MAGA caps rabidly cheering a tyrannical, lying, insane president? Gangs of Proud Boys beating protesters whose politics they dislike? Wackadoodle extremists promoting the group hallucination that Nancy Pelosi is leading a fiendish Democratic cabal of child sex traffickers? But is that really who we are? Given the media and political focus on all things awful about people, you would think so. But consider a couple of little-discussed truths about humanity that might help all of us step back from hopelessness and push ahead in our political work with a fresh perspective on what is possible. Warning, these truths are so contrary to present-day conventional thinking of what is possible that when some people are first exposed, their brains whiplash. So brace yourself. Here goes. Truth number one. Most people are fundamentally fair-minded, kind, and generous. Truth number two. The basic human instinct is not dog-eat-dog selfishness, but social cooperation and sharing. You might holler in disbelief, how can such happy truths jibe with that litany of horrors we're experiencing? Well, although there are obvious exceptions to the rule, decades of behavioral studies have by and large produced the same finding. The great majority of people are guided in their daily actions and relations by deep values of fairness and sharing. This is Jim Hightower saying, it turns out that humankind is, well, overwhelmingly kind. That's the deep, promising virtue that we should highlight, making people's innate desire for an equitable, cooperative society the basis for every one of our economic, political, and social policies.
Hightower's commentaries are brought to you by the Hightower Lowdown, the monthly newsletter with Hightower's take on what Wall Street and Washington are up to. For information, visit hightowerlowdown.org.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So evidently, yesterday, New York prosecutors held a hours-long interview with Michael Cohen about his dealings with Trump's business dealings, his business, his relationship with Deutsche Bank, some of the big creditors. They're delving into the Trump past, and no better place to go than the guy who was responsible for fixing and making all the problems go away. So it should be interesting post-presidency to see what happens to the Donald. And here to share some thoughts on, maybe where we go from here, I've asked our good friend, actor, comedian Tom Arnold to come back and share some things. Tom, thanks for taking time for us.
Well, thank you. I hope my buddy Michael Cohen is sharing everything he knows. I know has been very helpful, and let's hope he's 100% helpful. Now, he always held a little something back, so as not to incriminate himself. But I think probably now that he's not going to get a pardon. But no, he'd be very helpful, and I think that he spent a lot of time with the Trump organization. And I think New York State's where it's all, while he was in prison, he was talking to them, trying to get a lighter sentence. But I think because of COVID, he ended up getting a lighter sentence.
Yeah.
And I think he'd like to be on full release, so he didn't have to wear that ankle bracelet. And, Bill Barr put him through a lot of nonsense, extra nonsense for Trump. And so, it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of, things are just going to be, there's still, until Joe Biden takes office, and he's got so much house cleaning to do,
right?
Because there's so many idiots and knuckleheads in all these departments of all these institutions. It's a mess. It's a mess.
No kidding, it's a mess. You go back to Wednesday, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what happened last Wednesday. As we had, basically traitors and seditious activity, taking over our Capitol. When you saw that, what did you think?
Well, it was horrible, of course. And, but of course, Donald Trump does this. Of course, he ruins everything. Um, it was awful. It was such a close call. I do the activists conference call with Speaker Pelosi. We just had one before I came on here, and we had one Thursday. And she's awesome, and and to know that these people came there to murder her, to murder Mike Pence, to take hostages, to live stream it, to work down the line of succession until they found someone that would agree that Donald Trump could stay president. That was the plan. And we came within a minute of just carnage everywhere. They came within a minute of getting Mike Pence, his wife, and children, and murdering them. That was how close he came. He was there. He was in a small office, and they knew where everyone's offices were, unmarked offices. They had a layout of the building. They obviously had some help, but most of those officers fought valiantly, without any backup. Somebody from people were at the rally that were in Homeland Security, that were the ranking members at the rally, that took time off work to attend this rally, Stop the Steal rally, this unconstitutional thing that the president, the commander in chief, was at. And the fact that he did reach out to Mike Pence, when they had the Steve Scalise shooting, Barack Obama reached out to every person that was on that baseball diamond, and so did Joe Biden, by the way.
Right.
Republican, Democrat. Obviously, he called everybody.
Sure.
That's what you do, and so just knowing that Rudy Giuliani was calling senators, right before they came back in session, late at 8:00 that night, trying to get them to slow it down. Still, he was sitting in the White House with Trump, trying to slow it down. Trump had no contact with Pence for almost a week. Trump still hasn't said Joe Biden's name. There was Steve Bannon, who Trump brought back in the fold, planned it. Trump has talked to Steve Bannon 10 times a day leading up to this, and they planned it. And so this is not the fact that it failed, I'm sure, was disappointing to Trump, but he watched it on a bunch of monitors in the White House. He watched it while it was happening with Don Jr. and all the people there, and Eric and Trump and Ivanka Trump, and they watched it, and I'm sure they thoroughly enjoyed it. And when it failed, I'm sure that they were disappointed. Any other human being would have went live to the country. He's got 5 cameras at all times in the White House to go live. These people that talk about him being on Fox News, who are complicit, obviously,
right,
and still are, who talk about, he's had access. His voice has been silenced because of Twitter. He has the ultimate megaphone. He can go on live TV anytime he wants around the world. They will carry it.
Yeah, and he did absolutely nothing.
He did absolutely nothing. Now you're hearing firemen and all these people who, a lot of them had never been in trouble in their life, and now they've got federal charges because they said, the commander in chief told us to go over there. There's a lot of white supremacists, and he knew that they were. He knew what they were. That's why he supported them, and the QAnon nuts. He supported them, and he knew they were coming to Washington, D.C. His people made sure they were coming to Washington, D.C. for this rally. There's just so much nonsense. The Justice Department, after last summer, after the George Floyd incident, Bill Barr, he agreed to have 5 African Americans set up a special office inside the Justice Department to talk about blue on black crime, basically, and talk about really what that is about and how they could teach officers And so Trump appointed Larry Elder and started appointing guys like that, and so they kind of had to go underground because that was the solution. They're going to appoint guys like clowns, Trump's black guys that are going to speak up for all the victims of cop violence. That's how they're going to solve it, because it is a real thing. And so he started, so they had to go underground. The Black Caucus had to go underground and get their own and try to do that within the Justice Department.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So there's just so much crap, and the fact that he closed the FBI wanted to investigate, domestic terrorism and white supremacy, and Bill Barr shut that down.
Of course he shut it down because if you're going to do that, you got to investigate the president. You got to investigate all of his supporters because, hello, did you not see the flags that they were carrying in the Capitol?
Yeah. So the thing is, I mean, there's a reckoning for Trump, and the thing is, if we don't do the trial and stop him from running for office again, he will be the Republican nominee in 2024. There's no doubt about it. They say they're mad. But they have no choice. The Republican Party supports him. It is his party, and they will move past this. Fox News already has. They're already blaming Antifa or, what about last summer with the BLM, and they moved past it. There's also 140 Democrats that tried to overthrow the election in the House. There's 10 brave guys. Excuse me. It's funny that there's a lot of guys, a lot of representatives who would have voted to impeach, but they were feared for their lives.
Yeah, there were the 140 Republicans in the House.
Right. They were fearing for their lives, but we know that there's women of color, Democratic Congresswomen, they get death threats every day. And they voted to impeach Donald Trump. But these cowards, and I believe it, I believe they would get death threats. I know, I've gotten them just for speaking up. And, the country is too important. I'm not going to go, well, just because of that, I'm not going to talk about Donald Trump. Today's Martin Luther King's real birthday, and all this crap is going down. And we have to just keep doing what we do, Rick. But, he did get voted out. We did win in Georgia. Good things are happening. It's horrible to look around Washington, D.C. and have to protect our state capitals from an attack by Donald Trump. But that's what we got to do, buddy.
Yeah, are you looking forward, as I am, to the 21st when we no longer have to say the name Trump, to where he's not going to be front and center every day?
Yeah. I am. Well, he's already kind of disappeared because I spent a lot of time, on the internet and I read that's where I get a lot of my news and stuff. So he's already very small, and his terrible friends are turning on him, and hopefully that his hardcore fans will go to Mar-a-Lago because hopefully they'll get a message that that's where he wants them. That they need to go there. There's free drinks. And I want to put the word out now. Donald Trump is inviting all of them there. The Proud Boys, the QAnon, the Boogaloo Boys.
All of them.
All of them. He wants them there. He loves them. He said it. He loves them. They're good guys. Come to Mar-a-Lago. It's on me. You're welcome there.
Have a pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago, and then we build a wall around it, right?
Yeah. You could have the Jeffrey Epstein suite the party suite. We spent time. Come there, please. And that's
So
yeah.
So now it's tradition usually for the outgoing president to leave the incoming president a note. What kind of note do you think Trump's going to leave for Biden?
Well, it'd have ketchup stains from McDonald's. It would be, there is nothing, it's disgusting. When he started the birther stuff in 2011, it's just like, I'm going to ruin this thing. The first black president. Oh, no, that's not No, I'm changing that. I'm the asshole. I'm the asshole frat guy. No, party's over. No, it doesn't count. He wasn't born here. I'm just going to come in out of nowhere and say, doesn't count. He wasn't born here. I've talked to some people, and there's a good possibility he was born in Kenya. Sorry, stop the party. Now it's over. And that's what he's doing to Joe Biden. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they're duly elected. 81 million people of us voted. It's fair and square. But no, we can't have an inauguration. No, we're going to have 21,000 troops. We're going to put up walls. It's going to be crappy. I'm not leaving. We're not going to have a peaceful transition. No, that's not the way it is. We're not going to be able to join. His kids aren't. The family, first Jewish, first man in the White House, which I like. No, we aren't going to celebrate. We're going to be scared, and we're going to ruin everything because I'm Donald Trump. Yeah, we're going to keep ruining it. And if you try, we're going to threaten everybody because I'm Donald Trump. And
should he get the big military send-off that he wants?
No.
Evidently, he wants planes and he wants things going boom and people applauding his departure. Should he get it?
I'd like him to go boom. I'd like him to get a military send-off. You better believe it. Just fly him out over the water and drop him out over the ocean. And Don Jr. too, and this whole family. Put him in a inflatable and send him out there.
Just push him out in the middle of the ocean. But I got to be honest, I'm really looking forward to the investigations that I hope are coming. I'm looking forward to the trials, to all of the charges that I'm told are in the works, especially in the Southern District of New York. I'm waiting for all that stuff.
Well, how can there not be? I mean, how can there not be? And all the civil, all the civil trials and his money being taken away. I mean, there's crimes that you can't even imagine that have happened. And, obviously there people are pulling money from the Republican Party. I know they got a huge slush fund. Charles Schwab, the big firm, says it won't support political action, but Charles Schwab, the guy, still will donate $9 million a year to, there's a lot of misdirection, but people are still going to be identified as supporting this, being complicit, because this is such a big thing, and we came that close to a massacre that we're sitting here on Friday night, and we're sitting on Friday night for almost 400,000 deaths from COVID, horrible cluster F with our vaccination thing because of Trump and all the, and it's awful. And what happened was awful, but what almost happened would have been devastating. And we're so lucky. And so all those guys, maybe except for Mitt Romney, all those guys, they kept putting up with it. Oh, I don't read his tweets. I don't read. Oh, yeah, because they are the party. The Republicans are definitely the white supremacy party.
No, you're right. But here's the thing, and this is where I don't want to give Trump too much credit. Everyone's saying this is all because of Trump. No, this is who the Republicans have been for a very long time. Go back and read the campaign speeches of Pat Buchanan back in '92. This has been a party that's been dancing with this devil for a very long time, and now the devil's taken their soul. They don't get it back. To me, this is just who they've always been. Trump just brought that out.
Yeah, well, what happened in between was Barack Obama, because it got so much, and then there was George W. And then when the economy collapsed, and then we had Barack Obama. People were like, okay, and then we let our guard down. And Trump, to his, the one thing Trump did was he destroyed all of the mainstream Republicans, and none of them had any courage. They let him destroy him, and then they still let him in. They let him in after the racist birth or something. They let him in after he humiliated them, called their wives ugly, they let him in, and they knew who he was, and they let him in, and they let him destroy them. And then he let him destroy their party, and he let him lose the House, the Senate, the presidency. He lost everything.
Right.
And he still said, the guy, though, his policies. What are his policies?
There's not
What is
one.
his policy? There's no. Look where we are. People are dying, and the economy is terrible. And he tried to overthrow the government, and he tried to ruin the Constitution. So what is it? Can people come up though? He did some good things. What good things? He alienated our friends. He embraced our enemies. He allowed Russia to run roughshod inside of all our institutions and computer. He allowed them to hack us. What is one thing he did? Nothing. Nothing holds up. Nothing that somebody else couldn't have done, and then done it with some sort of dignity or.
No, you're right.
It's trash.
No, it is. And the one thing that I did give him credit for when he was running is he brought attention to our problem, our horrible trade problems with China and dealing with the Chinese government. But the sad thing is he's made it exponentially worse.
Right.
We're
He
now
dropped
much
the ball.
worse than we were when he took office. And there's even Rex Tillerson said recently that he couldn't believe it was possible that we'd be in a worse position than we are right now with China. But we are, and it's because of Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, he weakened us in every way. He weakened us, and I guess they thought it was cute that he lied all the time and talked about we had no bullets, we had no, and again, I go back to the John McCain thing. Nothing has been, there's no disqualifying, the Republican Party. There's no disqualifiers.
No, you're right.
So, and now here we are. We've got all these. Rick, we came so close to.
No, you're right, and I blame the Republicans for not holding him accountable. And you mentioned, Ted Cruz and Trump calling his wife ugly. You call my wife ugly, I'll kick your behind all over the curb.
Well, it depends on which wife, where I come from. No, I don't care, but he's. They're just they're really trash people, the Trumps, and we just dodged. I'll tell you what, Joe Biden. When he was running, I was like leery. I was like, does he have it? And he's turned out to be really excellent. The more I got to know him, I knew Kamal out here, and I knew she was strong, but he's turned out to be just excellent. He turned out to be the right guy at the right time. And, I'm not going to complain about any of his choices or get into that because I just trust that he's going to do the right thing, and we all like to be persnickety about this guy or that guy, but he really is the right,
Absolutely.
the right
so far,
guy.
what I see out of him is, great. I mean, this rescue plan I think is fantastic. They're talking about a really chunky, big infrastructure bill that they want to roll out in February. Look, he's got the big ideas, and my fear from him was that he would go too small. We would redo what we did during the Obama years and not go bold and really, really forward. I think Biden learned that lesson, and I think he knows the gravity of this moment. I'm really hopeful.
Yeah, and I like the $15 an hour minimum wage, and already. The Fox News like, oh my God, we can't. That's just impossible. The thing they always say, which they've said forever. And now, of course, $15 is $7.50, which it was. They waited so long. It should probably be $20 because they fought it for so long. But it's and you think that the Republicans, because they've been such a-holes. And ruin the country, would go, okay, whatever you want, buddy.
Yeah, the minimum wage.
There will be some of that though.
Right. Now on the minimum wage front, had it kept up with productivity, it'd be well over $23 an hour. And it had kept up with inflation, it'd be over 20. And had it kept up with CEO pay, it'd be like $30 an hour. But that's a whole nother world because we got to pay our CEOs big money.
Right, but the inflation thing is appropriate, and but the Georgia. Let's just talk for that for 1 second.
Hit it.
I mean, if we'd have won, I was like, if Warnock wins, that's a huge thing. The first black senator, we won that, and so you don't win special elections. We got, man, people showed up, and I did a tweet about, the second Civil War, which we won because black people voted, And we really did it. After this mess is cleaned up, that is what happened, because black people voted, and thank God, because that's what changed this. Because most white people voted for Trump. A third of the Jews voted for Trump. It's disgusting. But black people showed up, and Warnock. But the thing about Fox News is, because they were trying to take down Warnock and Ostrov, they kept having to put them on Fox News, and they were so good, because they're so smart, and they had these dumb things they were accused them of, domestic abuse, which I thought it was very funny, because he's like, his wife said she ran over his foot, and he'd changed so much since he got divorced, and then he's just so great talking. And Ostrov, come on, man, you're a serious journalist. What they were trying to get him on dealing with the Chinese was one of his documentaries played in Hong Kong, and it was so. But they had to put him live on Fox, and they got to say what they got to say, and it changed everything, because I think even some Fox people are like, "Yeah, this guy's pretty smart." And Trump took him down. He took down the idiot Republicans, and but that's what he just tried to do with the country. He's like, I'm mad. I don't know anything about the Constitution, but I know we're just going to take it down. I like the way this crowd feels. Let's go down there. And people are telling me, Steve Bannon, that we can do this thing and take the country down. I'm going to keep listening to him, and I'm going to pardon him. Probably this weekend he pardons him.
We'll see how that plays out. But overall, I'm really excited on the 20th. Wednesday's coming. Thrilled about it. Before I let you go, I wanted to get your thoughts. There's a fundraiser going on. Someone that you had sent out an email. I want people to know that they can donate to Sherry Hilber's fundraiser. Tell me a little bit about your relationship.
Well, I just happened to say that, and you got it today. Well, there's this woman, Sherry Hilber. She was an executive at ABC many years ago, back in the Roseanne days, and then she created this thing called RX Laughter, which it's at every hospital in America, and kids that are very sick. What we do is we put videos in there, and it turns out that laughter is very good for these kids, and we make unique videos for all these kids at all hospitals. And she created this program, and it's everywhere, and psychologists love it. And she's never asked me for a thing. And she reached out to me, and she's been battling 2 kinds of cancer. And then her house burned down last year, and she got burned. And she wrote me this note, if I knew anybody, and she's got a GoFundMe, and she's never asked for a thing. And so I just wrote my friends like you, hey, if you wouldn't mind helping, and you happen to get it today, so you're mentioning it. But she's one of the nicest people in the world, and you happen to get it, so you're looking at it there. So. What is it? A GoFundMe there?
Yeah, and we'll get links out so folks can help out. We're going to make a donation from the show.
She's such a nice person. Even though she started as a network executive, she's just this wonderful. And RX Laughter, people that are in the work with children in the hospitals know this program. It's everywhere, and she started that with a child psychologist, and it's just a wonderful thing. And I love her, and she's a nice woman. And so, that. So thank you, Rick. Thank you for doing it. You're a good man.
And we'll make sure we get links out so folks can take advantage and help out. But again, this is real quick. This is one of those issues that I'm hoping a Joe Biden presidency deals with. The fact that we've got to go, people have to go while they're suffering with cancer, while they're struggling with burn issues, while they've got medical bills that are mounting, they're begging on GoFundMe accounts to pay their medical bills. To me, is insane.
Yeah, that is. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so I know how hard it was for her to write me, and so that's why I did it. And thank you. It's insane, and we have to put a stop to this. Thank you very much,
Tom. I appreciate the time, man. Always good talking with you, my friend.
All right, good talking to you too, buddy.
Good stuff, our friend Tom Arnold. A little more serious this time. I was expecting little more of the comic stuff, but I guess it's the gravity of the moment. How can you be funny when we're over 400,000 people who have died from a virus? The economy is struggling, and we're talking about people who need help through a GoFundMe account to pay their bills. So lots to clean up. Let's take a quick break. Right back.
saving work in America, one show at a time. The Rick Smith Show.
Rick Snyder and several other officials will have to answer for the scandal in court.
Ex-governor of Michigan criminally charged in Flint water crisis. Trump EPA's parting gift to polluters, severe restrictions on all future pollution regulations. U.S. emissions plummet.
Good.
Due to coronavirus.
Oh.
Plus, world's biggest battery farm now online in California.
All of those stories online and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Where's your snarky comment?
Well, I banned Donald Trump from the Green News Report, so I got nothing.
Sad.
I know. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, it has been years and years and years, it seems, but maybe a little bit of accountability finally in Flint, Michigan?
Yes, former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder has been charged with 2 counts of willful neglect of duty for his role in the Flint water crisis. In 2014, an unelected manager appointed by Snyder ordered the city's water supply switched to the polluted Flint River to save money. The untreated water leached lead from pipes, poisoning the city's drinking water, and then state officials failed to act long after scientific evidence showed that residents in the predominantly black city were suffering from toxic lead poisoning, which causes health ailments and learning disabilities in children.
18 months later before they acted on it.
The switch also caused an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease that killed 12 people. The new charges are a welcome step in accountability and recovery for Flint, according to Democratic Representative Dan Kildee in an interview with WXYZ in Detroit.
Justice for the people of Flint comes in lots of different forms. Making things right for the people of Flint is an important part of that, but a very important part is holding the people who did this to Flint responsible.
Snyder's lawyer called the charges meritless. If convicted, the Republican Snyder faces up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine.
Yeah, a $1,000 fine. These are 2 misdemeanor charges. He'll never go to jail for a year. He probably won't even go to jail for a day. I think those lawyers ought to be thanking prosecutors at this point rather than complaining about it.
In Washington, the Trump Environmental Protection Agency launched a surprise attack on the incoming Biden administration's ability to tackle man-made climate change. Less than a week before President-elect Joe Biden takes office on Wednesday, as Trump was being impeached for the second time for inciting the attack on the U.S. Capitol, his EPA finalized a new climate rule that effectively prohibits all future limits on greenhouse gas emissions from any stationary industrial source other than power plants. The new rule sets a threshold designating any industry responsible for less than 3% of national emissions as exempt from all future emissions regulations permanently. It may sound small, but that threshold actually exempts prolific polluters like oil and gas production and refineries. The Biden administration and Congress can take actions to repeal the new rule, but it is just one of the many tangles and traps set by the Trump administration that will take time and focus to unravel.
But with Democrats in the majority in both the House and Senate, they can simply overturn it with the Congressional Review Act, right?
Right, but they have a lot of crises on their plate to deal with.
Yeah, they're going to be busy.
Trump EPA political appointees also interfered with scientific assessments of a specific type of forever chemicals in drinking water. PFAS chemicals used in firefighting foam, carpeting, and food packaging are linked to numerous ailments. Politico reports that appointees at EPA overruled the agency's career scientists to weaken a major health assessment for the toxic chemicals, which contaminate the drinking water of nearly 1 million Americans.
Can that be overturned as well with the Congressional Review Act?
No, that's a health assessment, which means the Biden EPA would have to go back and do the entire process of reassessing all over again.
Oh, you're right. They're going to have a lot of work ahead of them.
Good news, but for the worst possible reason. U.S. annual greenhouse gas emissions in 2020 fell by the greatest amount since World War II, 10%, according to a new estimate by the Rhodium Group. Global annual emissions also dropped more than 7% in 2020, but it's no cause for celebration because it's due to the coronavirus pandemic slamming the brakes on the global economy. The drop was temporary, and emissions will climb again as the economy recovers, but it does conclusively demonstrate that structural changes to reduce fossil fuel use will succeed in delivering big emissions reductions. Finally, one of the big structural changes to reduce greenhouse gas emissions is now underway in the U.S. Just 5 years ago, a utility-sized battery project of 20 megawatts was considered big. Now a 300-megawatt project, the largest in the world, has gone online in California. And an even bigger battery storage project is slated to come online in Florida by the end of 2021. Just one of many. So there's that.
There's that. I'll take it. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So counting down to the final days, cannot wait till the end of this administration and a bit of sanity with the President Joe Biden. Just cannot wait for that day to come. Hopefully soon. Some good news here in Pennsylvania. A top federal prosecutor here in Harrisburg announced today that his office has closed any investigation into the discarded ballots and all of the election stuff that they claim went on. So I'm hoping this is the end of it. I'm hoping we now move forward. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on where we are, the week that was, and maybe what's going to happen this weekend. I've asked our good friend, former Congressman, political analyst Bob Ney to come back and share some thoughts. Bob, thanks for taking time for us.
Oh, thank you, Rick.
So let's start with here in Pennsylvania, these investigations. Do these investigations finally wrap up at some point after the 20th, or do you see more Trump lawyers pursuing this stuff?
Well, no, I mean it's technically dead anyway. After the certification of President-elect Biden, that ended. I'm not a legal scholar, but I've talked to enough people and read enough that ends it. So they may be officially ending it anyway, but the certification of Joe Biden ends it. There's nothing that can reverse that. So it's done. I mean, I don't know if they'll formally close what's left, but most of it's done anyway.
Yeah, well, I'll be happy when all this is in the rearview mirror. Wednesday, I guess Trump is planning to have his own ceremony. It's again all about him, not going to the inauguration. And wants a big kind of to do a big send off at the Andrews Air Force Base.
Well, I mean, he can, they can do what they want. I mean, officially, he has to leave, and they always usually go. They usually show them. Of course, they go to the inaugural, and then they, at some point in time, leave. But in this case, he'll leave. It'll be covered, I'm sure, by the media, unless it's simultaneous, but it'll be covered.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the first time since Andrew Johnson that a president hasn't gone to the inauguration. I didn't realize it was that far back, but he is breaking that kind of tradition.
Right. I think is he the fourth one, if I'm correct?
I think he is only the fourth. He will be the fourth one to
He'll be the fourth one, and there were. Because I read up on this actually about a month ago, but I was reading up on it, anticipating he wouldn't go. But yes, it's been obviously quite a while since a president hasn't attended.
Yeah, because I'm kind of looking at it going, if I'm Biden, I just don't want him there. Is there a way to uninvite? Say, no, that's okay. We don't want you.
Well, Biden wouldn't do it. Biden has if, as you know, if Trump had said he would go, Biden would say fine. And as Biden has, with the vice president will be there, Pence. And Biden actually made a statement that he would, welcome Pence to be there.
You know what
at this point in time, if Trump said he was coming, that would be probably, after the Capitol. Then I think President-elect Biden would have a different statement. Yes.
Yeah. I'm curious. It's been tradition for the outgoing president to leave a note for the incoming president, and I've been pondering what that note would look like, even if there's even going to be one. Who knows what's going to happen? The stories that we're going to hear about the transition. But any thoughts on what a note would be, other than I won and you know it?
Well, I mean, we could do an hour of your time with your listeners, everybody, giving their opinion. But how about keep the house in order for me. I'll be back. Something I would assume like that could be. You never know, or you really didn't win. I mean, who knows? I don't think he would write a note that would say, "Don't do what I did." So.
Oh no, because everything he did was perfect, right? He had the perfect phone calls.
You're right. They do write notes. I mean, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
they do traditionally.
Yeah, because I've there was an article not too long ago that showed, and some of them are very nice. I mean, the one that George H.W. Bush left for Bill Clinton was very nice. The one W left for Obama as well. And the H.W. Bush one was a little contentious because he lost.
Right. Yeah. I at one point in fact I think his letter was one of the more highlighted as as a good letter.
No, it was because that was contentious. I mean, he was a president who lost. I mean, when Obama left, it was his time was up. Same thing with W when his time was up. Same thing with Clinton, their time was up.
I imagine there'll be no letter.
No letter?
I don't think so. Just as there's no attendance at the inaugural.
Doesn't that speak volumes to who? And do you think history will remember that?
I mean, I think it'll be noted. Who knows how people think in 100 years, but it'll be noted that he didn't go. I mean, he wouldn't sit up there and be quote the loser publicly. He's not going to do that or be booed. Of course, there's going to be a different attendance level now because this is going to be a different inaugural. They're not going to have the traditional amount of people that are there. I've been to them, and normally it's pretty packed, but obviously it's not going to happen this time.
Yeah, I was for Obama's first one, I took my oldest daughter, and it was incredible. I mean, we basically were stuck in the crowd, and I'm a big guy. We were so packed in that the crowd literally carried me with my daughter on my shoulders right along, where it was almost I didn't even have to walk.
I was with Ellen Ratner, your friend, my friend, and she ran us ragged, of course, and we had to collect every souvenir in Washington, D.C., so we're carrying 3 or 4 bags of things, but we did attended the first one.
And the second one, Ellen got me fabulous tickets. I was within a paper airplane throw of the president when he was giving his speech, and it was one of those things that I'll always remember because we were right there.
Well, with the tickets, it's interesting because if you're in Congress and you're Republican and you have a Democrat president, your Democrat colleagues will call you and say, "Hey, can I have your tickets?" Because you can get up to 40, 50 some tickets members can. When now I think your members are going to get 2 tickets total.
Yeah, it's not going to be a big affair,
No.
But the times call for this. So because look, at the end of the day.
Correct.
I'm looking at the stories coming out. We were told there's a stockpile of the vaccine. There's not. You got the governor of Colorado going, "Hey, I thought there was something there. Oops." Biden's coming in at a time where the virus is raging completely out of control. There's another variant. They're saying that's going to peak in March. It's going to be worse. So he's got a lot to walk into.
Yes, I watched him on on television tonight, and he stressed. He had a very good conference, but he stressed the 100 days. Please just the mask for 100 days. So that'll be part of the element of his inaugural. Less people, the distancing, obviously, and masks.
Do you think that's something that's going to be possible across the nation because we are so divided and the masks have become such a political statement? Or do you see it as I sadly do, that this is going to be more of what we end up fighting over at the grocery store?
Well, I'm watching even in some areas where maybe a month ago they didn't enforce anything in the stores. They're now, they actually have. I saw one tonight, a sign that says, you must have the mask, no excuses, is what they put on the sign. But and so I think people are not fighting it and wearing it more. But I have to tell you that there's an article on it today that America has tuned out the coronavirus.
Yep.
And in just some case, they've just tuned it out about what worrying about or what to do. Yet I've heard of more cases this time. I know of more people personally this time than last year combined that I know that personally have it.
No, the country was completely shut down, and we were having 1,000 people dying a day. We're now at 4,000 people dying a day, and it's like, life as usual.
Right. Yeah, they have. For some cases, they have tuned it out. And then I think another observation of tuning it out, and this is intentional, which is amazing. 60% of the nursing home employees in the state of Ohio have declined the shot. They've declined it, which is an unbelievable statistic.
Now, this is one of those questions that, as a labor guy, people keep asking me, is it the employer's right to mandate when they come on the job that they have this? Or, as it was, because, I've been talking to people who are, how are you going to deal with this? If someone refuses, do they lose their job? Can you mandate that they wear a mask? Is there any guidance coming from the states or from the federal government on this?
Well, there actually is, because the Commission, on disabilities, which would tend to be, let's obviously say on the side of protection, of employees and their rights. About, I think, if I remember right, 3 weeks ago, there was a decision made that that employers would have the right to require. It would not be discriminatory. So that ruling's already out there. Now, it hasn't been tested in court, but it is out there, Rick.
Yeah, well,
so technically,
the reality is if you don't have a union contract, you're an at-will employee anyway. They can fire you for any reason they want.
Correct.
So if they mandate that you either have to have that vaccine or you don't work, I got to think in this at-will situation that's one of those things, you're out the door.
Right. Like I said, I think it was approximately 3 weeks ago that employers could require it, and that was through the Commission. So, that's already there. So that, now, again, I don't think it's been challenged, but it's there. Yet it's up to the employer, like the nursing home, to say, you must take this shot. So if any of these employees in the nursing homes, and I'll just take the state of Ohio, if the nursing home says you're not going to be employed anymore, that employee would not have the right to go against them in a court, according to the Commission ruling.
And they wouldn't be able to collect unemployment either.
Correct. That's right.
Because I think you could consider that a voluntary quit. Now, what do you say to the person? Well, you can't make me, you're forcing me to get this shot, and it's against my religious beliefs or whatever that is. Now we throw that monkey into the middle.
Well, yes, right. I mean, we do. And again, there's also going to be certain, as this progresses, there's going to be certain requirements, because this is for sure. If you want to fly in this country or out of this country, either one, pretty soon you're going to have the vaccine or you're not going to get on an airplane. So I mean that's a fact. Then if the ruling was that employers would may require vaccines before an employee returns to the work site, and then if they pose a direct threat to another employee, that's a big part of this, then that employee could be terminated. So actually, it's sort of a protection of employee versus employee.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because it hasn't really gotten down that far to the rest of us, to the people who work just in the healthcare industry. But it's interesting to me that you've got healthcare workers who are saying no. I mean, it's especially when you're talking about dealing with the most vulnerable populations.
Right. Now let's think about OSHA for a minute, right? Occupational Safety and Health Act. All right. If you don't impose a mandatory vaccine, an employee could allege that you failed to provide a safe work environment. You see?
Yeah.
They could allege that.
I've been arguing that that's what people should have been doing all along.
Mm-hmm.
If employers weren't providing the proper PPE and weren't doing the cleaning and the social distancing and all the things that they should have been doing, I still think that they should have been held responsible for that. But the Trump OSHA people haven't been anywhere near it. In fact, there's the case of the one meatpacking plant. I think a bunch of people died. They fined them like $13,000.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the agency that did it. And I had carried this story, I think about 3 weeks ago, if I remember right. It was the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, again, which has always tended to stand up for employees, equal employment opportunity. And that commission determined that COVID-19 meets the direct threat definition. That's determined already.
Yeah.
So employers, if they want to, are going to rely on that determination by EEOC that it's a direct threat definition, and under that, they can use EEOC to say you're not coming back to work until you're vaccinated. So it's pretty strong if they want to do that. Now, they can get sued, of course, but again, they could stand under EEOC and they could stand under OSHA in the definitions, and I would say the employer would win.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
It is.
Clearly. I wanted to get your thoughts on the rescue package that President-elect Biden has proposed. Any chance in hell of this $1.9 trillion rescue package making its way through the Senate?
Well, this one's interesting because presidents tend to have the honeymoon effect, and that's when they begin. It's sort of the first 100 days. We hear about the 100 days of masks, and remember with the contract with America, 100 days. Everything tends to be the first 100 days. And presidents do get that type of effect. Trump was supposed to have done the infrastructure bill. He didn't. He didn't have the 100-day, I want to do what I want to do attitude out there by anybody or the Congress as you normally have it. So Biden, it technically has that honeymoon period, but then again, this is different because they're going to be ending up into an impeachment conviction or not scenario in the Senate.
Right.
That has to get out of the way. And then I think this gives Biden probably ample opportunity to not get all of it, but it's going to give him an opportunity to get, certain parts of that entire $1.9 trillion measure. And let's face it, in there is going to be the remaining $1,400 of the stimulus package, which is going to be obviously an incentive for a lot of people, even if they say, well, I kind of don't like that package, but I want to get the stimulus to people. So, that's sort of an enticing part of it. I mean, I don't think it's going to be as normally easy, but these are strange times, tough times, and President-elect Biden, when he's president, has two things he has to do. One, do his best to get this package through, and two, follow up with an economic package. He's got two goals, in my opinion. The virus, number one, the virus, and number two, the economy,
sure,
side by side. So he can satisfy that in his first two measures. So I think he gets some support on that. Will he get all of it? Maybe not. But I think he's going to get some large parts of what he wants.
I sure hope so. But as you pointed out, the Republicans are looking for revenge because Trump didn't get those 100 days. Because to be honest, he came right out with we're going to repeal the Affordable Care Act. That wasn't a proposal to make things better. Had he come out and said, hey, I've got this great health care plan. Here's this great health care plan. Let's repeal and replace with this. I think it would have been a completely different scenario. But he had no replacement, and the Republicans had no replacement because there isn't one.
Right. And at some point in time here, within the next week, literally, we're going to see whether, people are tired of, I'm not talking about the Trump loyalists. I'm talking about statistically, which we've seen some polling where, the average general citizen supporter says, well, we've got a new president. We've got to give him a chance. That does happen sometimes, and it tends to happen. So we'll know within a week whether that's the case. But I will tell you this, they have to get the impeachment out of the way because the media, as long as that is alive, is going to play that.
No, you're absolutely right. But here's the thing.
Corporate media.
The Q Queen from Georgia, that Marjorie Taylor Greene, she says on the 21st, she's unfurling her impeachment against Joe Biden.
Well, that's fine. She can do what she wants to do. When you start an impeachment, and even with Trump's case, some people before he got sworn said, I'm going to impeach him. It's a bad move. Wait till they get in and you think you have something you can try. But, she'll introduce something, but it will be not of the effect of, what we had last time as things progressed and then the Mueller investigation, et cetera. So, but I think the impeachment does have to get out of the way, whether it begins an hour after Joe Biden's sworn in. That's going to be up to Schumer, too, because McConnell's out as the leader.
Yeah, the quicker the better, in my view. Let's get the hearings done. Let's get it done. Let's put it behind us. If he's removed, great. That's fine. If he's convicted, good, fine. But we got a lot of work to do going forward. It's that simple. Last question I've got for you. In your neck of the woods, there's talk of some trouble on Saturday. Are you expecting any violence at your Capitol?
Who knows? These days, you got to be prepared for everything. These conspiracy theories that are out there that all the elector's going to be shut off and all these apocalyptic events are going to occur. That's not going to happen. There's not going to be that. Nobody's going to come back. They say Flynn will be running things. Everybody's going to be arrested. That stuff is seriously way out there in outer space. But I think that our governor is preparing, to have some guard there and some people. But let's hope it doesn't happen. I think that if people look at what happened at the Capitol and the aftermath of the Capitol, that I don't think in general there will be that kind of situation. I don't believe it will be. Really don't.
I hope not. I hope there's going to be nothing crazy. Go out there, protest, scream, holler, do all that, but I don't want to see any bloodshed. We need to move forward. Bob, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Seriously, go out there. I'm a big fan of protest. I'm a big fan of people, redressing their, they're getting the redress of their grievance through their government. Absolutely. But when you start beating policemen to death with fire hydrants, there's a problem there. There is a huge, huge problem. And look, I don't expect these Q kooks to go away. I don't expect the right to give up easily. I expect there to be, attacks on Joe Biden, both social media and honestly, I fear that these people have ramped up their rhetoric to the point where it goes beyond just posts on a Facebook page. And you look what we saw in our Capitol. These people were looking for. They came ready for real damage. Sorry, you don't show up with zip ties and all of that stuff and military garb if you're not thinking this is war. And sadly, there are people in this country who've got it in their head that by giving people health care and decent jobs and education and having better opportunities, that's somehow something you want to go to war over is just insane to me. These people are radical. And I guess, as a friend, told me today that, they view me as a radical because I want people to have health care. I don't think you should have to put out a GoFundMe page to pay your health care bills. If that's radical, then sign me up. I think families should be able to exist on one income. If that's radical, sign me up. I think kids should get the best education they can and it shouldn't saddle them with a lifetime of debt. If that's radical, I'm right there. And I think a lot of us would be there as well. Anyway, if you missed any of today's program, thericksmithshow.com. That's where you go to get the podcast. The Rick Smith Show app on the smartphone. Take the program on the go wherever you go. And as always, you can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Thanks so much for being here. Stay safe. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.